Wonderful. Go ahead and get in your Bible to 2 Kings chapter 5. I know really we all could stand up and do that. Most of us are just not inclined to do that publicly. But I hope that each of you will, if you have not yet done so, make sure you set aside some time specifically just to be thankful. And it'll be a blessing to you. And for obvious reasons, we're breaking away from our Wednesday night series that I've been teaching through the book of Judges. I really just want to leave a brief thought with you before we break for some dessert and fellowship together. Probably, if I went around the room and spoke to you individually and asked if you would like to be a more thankful person, probably everybody in here would say, I would like to be more thankful. I don't know how you ever get to the place where you say, well, you know, I'm thankful enough. It's kind of like getting to the place where, yeah, I pray enough. I don't think we ever get to those kinds of places. But when we think about being thankful, there's some things that cause us to struggle to be thankful. We struggle to be thankful because we regularly see people around us who have more than we do. And it causes us, if we're not careful, to not appreciate what we have. We struggle to be thankful because we fall for people's electronic image. And people have a social media image. And it's not even just a social media image, it's snapshots we see of their life. And we see them for a minute here and in a minute there. And, you know, it causes us to not appreciate our life. There's someone in my family, they're in their 50s, and they've probably not put a photo on Facebook that hasn't had some kind of special filtering job on it for decades. And so everyone's, wow, she's looking good. And it's like, nah. We struggle to be thankful because we live in a suburban bubble. You know, when we went to the Honduras to, you know, those poor rural villages, it really put what we have in perspective. In fact, it's not just in poor places in the world. There are a lot of places in America that most of us in this room can't relate to. And because we're in our bubble, we struggle to be thankful. We struggle to be thankful because we have wrong expectations for what God should do for us, what our life should be like. Somebody said expectations are the mother of all frustration. Somebody said there are two ways to be more thankful. Raise your reality or lower your expectations. Have you ever considered how your expectations are either helping or hurting how thankful of a person you are? Did you know we're actually commanded in the Bible multiple times to give thanks? The psalmist said, be thankful unto God and bless His name. Now, God did not command any of us to be thankful people because we were unable to do so. And so every one of us, because of the grace of God and good choices in our life, we can be thankful people and obey our Lord. And so I just want to leave a thought with you tonight about how to be a bit more thankful. If you would stand, if you're able to stand in honor of the Word of God, the title of my thoughts, just becoming more thankful. 2 Kings chapter 5, verse 9 says, So Naaman came with his horses and with his chariot and stood at the door of the house of Elisha. And Elisha sent a messenger unto him, saying, Go and wash in Jordan 7 times. Thy flesh shall come again to thee, and thou shalt be clean. But Naaman was wroth and went away and said, Behold, I thought he would surely come out to me and stand and call on the name of the Lord his God and strike his hand over the place and recover the leper. Are not Abana and Pharpar rivers of Damascus better than all the waters of Israel? May I not wash in them and be clean? So he turned and he went away in a rage. Thank you. Might be seated. Now, many of you are familiar with this story. Some of you are familiar with this story because, like my children, you grew up in Sunday school and children's church and Wednesday night ministries. Others of you are familiar with this story more like me, who did not grow up like that, but because I read my Bible. But if you're not familiar with the story, one of Israel's worst enemies was their neighbor to the north, a country named Syria. And Syria defeated the northern kingdom of Israel in battle, and they forced Israel to pay a tribute every year to remain in their own land. And the victorious general in Syria over Israel was this man named Naaman. He was famous in Syria. He was infamous in Israel for his military success, but he was a leper. Now, leprosy made him a social outcast. It kept him from being close to anyone, even his family. And one of the Israelite girls, we're not really told how old she was a little girl, and she was taken captive as a slave. And while enslaved there in Syria, she spoke to her masters about the God of Israel and about the prophet Elisha being able to heal. Well, Naaman, after hearing this, he basically got a big bunch of money together for Elisha, and he went to Israel with high expectations after hearing about this prophet of God who could heal him. It renewed hope. I mean, if you had leprosy, there was no hope. You just slowly were deteriorated and fell apart and literally had parts of your body fall off until there was nothing left. It was terrible. And so he had hope for the first time in hearing about some man of God with God's power to do something about it. I'm sure as he traveled from Syria to Israel, I mean, he was thankful. You know, hope, getting better, close to my family and friends again. Wow. Now, I'm sure while he traveled, he had his own expectations about how Elijah would handle him. And unfortunately, Naaman's expectations were not accurate, nor were they helpful to him at all. You see, he was very important and very prominent and very successful, so he expected Elisha to come out himself. But Elisha didn't do that. In verses 9 and the first part of verse 10, so Naaman came with his horses and with his chariot and stood at the door of the house of Elisha, and Elisha sent a messenger unto him. That's not what he expected. And so now the happiness that he had and thanksgiving that he had beginning to go down. He expected some elaborate ceremony and sayings by Elisha, but instead was just told to go wash in the muddy river of Jordan 7 times. That's the end of verse 10. He says, go and wash in Jordan 7 times, and thy flesh shall come again to thee, and thou shalt be clean. Now, because Naaman's expectations were not accurate, because they were not in line with reality, he left very angry and frustrated, and we read about that in verse 11 and 12. Naaman was wroth, went away, and said, behold, I thought he would surely come out to me and stand and call on the name of the Lord his God and strike his hand over the place and recover the leper. And verse 12 closes, so he went away in a rage. Did you catch the two key words that caused Naaman to go from hopeful and thankful to frustrated in a rage? Did you catch the two words? They're in the middle of verse 11. I thought. I thought. See, he had a way he thought things should go. And he was no longer thankful for having hope of being healed for the first time since he was diagnosed. He was not thankful that he'd been made aware of a true prophet in a world filled with false prophets. He was not thankful that there was a little girl who spoke about God and God's prophet, and who at a time, I mean, most enslaved people would have just wanted their master to slowly deteriorate and die. He wasn't thankful anymore for her either. He wasn't thankful he'd been made aware of a good plan to miraculously cleanse him, because it wasn't what he expected. See, at the root of all his rage and all of his ingratitude was unrealistic expectations for God and what the prophet would do. Now, if you know the story, thankfully, Naaman's servants had more sense than he did, and they got him, even though he didn't really want to do what Elisha had told him to do in verses 13 and 14. And his servants came near and spake unto him and said, My father, if the prophet had bid thee to do some great thing, wouldest thou not have done it? How much rather than when he saith to thee, Wash and be clean? Then he went down and dipped himself 7 times in Jordan, according to the saying of the man of God, and his flesh came again like unto the flesh of a little child, and he was clean. See, wrong expectations almost caused him to miss the miracle God had planned for him. Wrong expectations led to frustration and anger with everyone around him. Wrong expectations caused him to no longer be thankful for everything he had just gotten. You know, maybe it would be wise for all of us who regularly struggle being thankful to pause and consider our expectations and how they hinder our thankfulness. You see, to be more thankful toward God, we must expect God to do things God's way instead of ours. I think one of the biggest problems we all have is letting God be God. You know, we have a way we think things should go. We have a way we think things should not go. And when they don't go that way, our gratitude is all gone. Well, I thought God would answer my prayer this way. Well, I thought God would open this door for me because I've been faithful. I thought God would not allow something like this to happen in the life of someone like me who tries to follow him. I thought following and obeying God was going to be easier. You know, the list of things we think about how God should handle us or our world is endlessly different from trusting God to know what really needs to be done. You know, there is really so much good in how God handles things, and so we have every reason to be thankful to God. You know, someday every believer will conclude that God did everything well. Everything well. Why not decide now that God is doing everything well and be thankful? But it isn't just thankful to God. To be more thankful toward people in our home, we must expect their flaws to come out at times. Shockingly, your spouse is going to fail at times to be the leader or follower that they're supposed to be, just like you're going to fail in your role. Your children are going to be immature and do dumb things, just like you did when you were young. See, to expect something different, it makes it harder to be thankful. But I thought my spouse would meet my needs. But I thought my children wouldn't give me trouble like I've seen other children give their parents. I thought marriage was going to be easier. I thought it would be easy to join 2 lives. I thought it was going to be easy to parent my children. I thought it was going to be just like a picture book. No, it's 2 in the morning to a screaming child and cleaning up the mess. But there's a lot of people who wish they had a child to clean up. See, so much of our failure to be thankful for the people in our own house is that we're thinking on the wrong things. Do you know what I've noticed about myself? When I'm most frustrated with my wife, what I've noticed about myself, it's always when I'm focused on something where I think she should be doing something else. And me failing to appreciate what she is doing that's good. Do you know when our children were in the home and now that they're grown, do you know the times when I'm frustrated most with them when they were in the home or now? It's when they're not doing what I think they should do. See, my expectations and your expectations, they're directly linked with God and with our family, our marriage, our children, with how thankful we are. You know, to be more thankful toward the Lord's church, we have to expect Christian people to still be people. You see, all saved people know they have their own flaws and struggles, But those same people who know they have their own flaws and struggles expect everyone else to handle themselves perfectly. You know, sometimes people aren't going to notice your needs, just like sometimes you don't notice theirs. Sometimes people are going to forget things that are important to you, just like you forget things that are important to them sometimes. Sometimes people don't get it right when they plan some things. And sometimes we don't either. Sometimes people say stuff about you that shouldn't be said. Sometimes you say stuff about others that you shouldn't say. See, to expect something different, we set ourselves up to not be grateful. Well, I thought the people at church would always be there for me. I thought the people at the church would always be warm and friendly and spiritually minded. I thought they would always be my friend. I thought they would always seek me out. I thought I was going to finally find the popularity and prominence that I always wanted. I thought the pastor and deacons would not have the same immaturities and weaknesses I have. Listen, I thought. And it is a great enemy to be unthankful. Do you know what I believe? I believe some of the greatest people anywhere are sitting in the Lord's churches and here tonight in particular. It just depends on what you expect and where you look. I expect Jesus in the Bible to be perfect, but I don't expect that out of anyone else. And you know what that helps me do? Be thankful. I really am thankful for you. Do you know most churches, they couldn't even have a Wednesday night service before Thanksgiving because nobody would show, starting with the pastor. And not because they're all traveling or at some family event. They just don't want to go. I'm thankful. I'm actually glad to be here. Say, I wish you'd finish up because I'm glad to have dessert. So your thoughts are really hurting you from being thankful, your expectations. There's so much good in God's people. There's so much good here with people at Bible Baptist Church. Please don't wait till you move away to appreciate it. Do you know what I've had people say to me multiple times who've moved away from here? I didn't realize how good I had it. Please, just decide that you're going to appreciate today and be thankful. And lastly, to be more thankful in life, we got to expect life to be hard at times. We got to expect the world to act like the world. I don't know why Christian people are shocked that sinners act like sinners. Now, if all of us paused, we could all make a list of things that are in the world or in our life that we don't like, that were caused by the sinful decisions of somebody else. All of us could make a list like that. I thought if there was a God, there wouldn't be violence or abuse like there is. I thought if the Bible was true, that people wouldn't fight against it or hate those who believe it. I thought that there shouldn't be any of these wars or evil people. I thought God was good. Our expectations in every area of our life are directly linked with how thankful we are. There is so much beauty, so much goodness, so many things that are worth our smiles and thanksgiving in our world around us if we would just allow ourselves to see them. News media is not going to report it. You don't get clicks or people turning to your news station if all you do is talk about good things. There's so much good still in our world. I know it's dark out there, but there's still so much good. And you and I need to decide to have right expectations so we can be more thankful. You just bow your head and close your eyes. We don't need any music, or just use these moments to talk to the Lord about your life.